The following is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Please consult your mental health provider for your mental health needs. Hello, welcome to Chez Eric, my home, where we talk about psychiatry and religion with a focus on how to apply it to your life. I'm really excited because this is the start of a really great series on William James on the Varieties of Religious Experience. And this is a really, really important work. William James is a really, really important character, one of the greatest thinkers of the 19th century. He's not as famous as Freud, but Freud is pretty famous and everyone kind of knows about him. William James, not as much, but still very, very influential. This particular series is going to have a couple of videos per lecture because William James's The Varieties of Religious Experience is very, very dense. If you go on YouTube and type it in, you're going to find lectures of people talking about it. And it's going to be about 24 hours long. It's a lot of content to go through. It's all very, very good, but again, very, very dense. I'm going to chew it up for you, make it applicable, and it's very important to understand what is religious experience and what are the ways we think about it and how can we understand what is a religious experience and what is not a religious experience, or how do we define it and what are we trying to look for. These are the things that I hope will be answered by the end of this series. So the series is going to be pretty long, probably 20 some parts. I don't even know yet. I haven't produced all of it yet, but I'm still reading it and learning along the way. However, before I get into it, I kind of wanted to introduce you to William James. William James was a dude born January 11th in 1842, and he was an American philosopher and psychologist. And again, he was the leading thinker of the 19th century, incredibly influential in the field of psychology. And he actually was very influential in establishing the philosophical school known as pragmatism. Pragmatism, as you can imagine, like practical pragmatism, is a philosophy that says we should understand and consider the practical effects of the things that you do. And only after you do that, you then sum up all of those practical things to understand the world a little bit better. And that's in contrast to, I guess, typical philosophy where you have a general abstract concept up here, and then you try to figure out if it applies to what you do with your life, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's all very mind thing, very intellectual, and maybe it has no actual practical effects. So William James was like, I'm not gonna be about that. I'm just gonna be really practical all the time and then understand the world through that. So a little more about William James. Apparently, he was really rich. He was born into a fairly rich family. He was born in New York City, the Astor House, which was the very first luxury hotel in New York City. And he was the son of Henry James Sr. I'm going to pronounce this maybe hopefully correct. Swedenborgian theologian. That was Henry James Sr. And he was rich and very clearly a very intellectual family. I'm mildly jealous, although I enjoy my life, so I'm not too jealous, but mildly jealous. William James was highly, highly educated. As he's a child, he learned German and French, and as a later adult, he went to Harvard Medical School, which I assume is just as difficult to get in back then as it is right now, so very, very impressive. He graduated in 1869, but he didn't really practice medicine, so he just kind of became an instructor of anatomy and physiology and psychology. And although he had all these great things going for him, he actually suffered from a lot of issues, both medical and psychological. One of the things he was suffering from was soul sickness, quote unquote soul sickness, which was only resolved until 1872, a few years after medical school. I imagine that's some form of a depression of some sort, and he resolved it after a lot of personal soul searching. So he did have to search deeply into himself and his life. He also suffered from many physical ailments, including problems with his eyes and his back and his stomach and his skin. And he had psychological symptoms, and diagnosed with neurasthenia. And at the time, it was a diagnosis where he had like a mechanical weakness, and it was a major diagnosis of the 19th century. But it also included periods of depression, and often at times he would contemplate suicide for months at a time. Luckily, he didn't do it because now he created this really great work to help us understand the varieties of religious experience. Most of his career, he was in Harvard, and he was teaching, again, physiology, anatomy, and psychology throughout his time there. But he was, in particular, drawn to the study of the human mind. And he was very influential in the philosophical discussions at the time that emphasized pragmatism and functionalism. William James did very important work in religion, and his Gifford Lectures, done in the University of Edinburgh, where he provided sort of a wide-ranging account of the varieties of religious experiences. He goes through many different texts and authors and people, and he discusses what these all have in common in terms of what they say to be a religious experience and interaction from God. So this happened in 1902, and in a nutshell, we're going to go through this entire series throughout the entire time, but in a nutshell, there are 4 major points that he talks about. The first is that he has an emphasis on religious genius, and he says that in order to understand religious experience, we need to understand religious genius, that we should search out for religious genius to understand what is the religious experience. The second thing is that even pathological experiences are very important to understand, because that is where we can have a true in-depth understanding of the human mind, because it would be harder otherwise. If you take a healthy person and understand who they are, you won't see the exaggerations that you would normally see with an unhealthy minded person. The next thing he kind of emphasizes that to fully interpret a common shared experience, we have to kind of have overbeliefs, beliefs that exist in the realm that goes beyond what we've personally experienced and pushed to an extreme. And the reason why we need to do that is because we need to, it helps us live fuller lives to have this overbelief, believing things we don't necessarily personally experience, just things that we don't see on our own. And finally, the big thing he also talked about was that religious mysticism is very similar. It's one half of what he says insanity. And so that they're very, very much related to each other. And both of these, he says, are located in the great subliminal transmarginal region. So that's William James in a nutshell. We're going to be definitely going to in-depth every single week. And I really hope you enjoy the ride. And I hope it becomes very, very, very insightful for you. If you like this, do like and subscribe. If you do like and subscribe now, then you'll be able to see the new videos that come out. And if you like and subscribe later when the videos are done, do binge it. Have fun, binge it. I make this for you. And again, I hope it's very, very helpful for you. So I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, just wanted to give you a small update on the book that I'm writing. I'm going to be changing the title to Welcome to Chez Eric, Psychiatry and Religion to Improve Your Life. It seems to be more fitting. The other one was a little bit of a mouthful. I'm still working on the first revision, so in time, hopefully I'll get it done. Wish me luck. Keep you updated. Thanks. Bye.